G'day everyone. Before we hop into today's vlog, I just want to remind you to please hit that subscribe button. From now on, I'm going to be putting out daily online poker vlogs. We're going to be tracking my process as I play these 6 max online poker cash games 6 out of 7 days of the week. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get the vlogs as they come out. But for now, onto the vlog.
G'day everyone, welcome back to the vlog. It's currently about 9:05 AM here in Melbourne, and as you know by now, that is a bit of a sleep in for me, but I will say the reason I slept in today is because I did play poker until about midnight last night. I had some free time after I finished editing the vlog and I wasn't quite feeling tired yet, so I was like, why not just play a session, kill a bit of boredom, do something productive, and I'm glad I did. We won't give the results away yet, just because I will include those hands from last night into today's results, just because, why not? Gets me a bunch more volume in, which obviously I'm always happy about, but the goal for the rest of today is to get up to that 1,500 hand mark. Before I do that though, I need to get a feed in. Let's go cook.
Okay, it's about 10:10 AM now, and we just grabbed in that massive feast. The chicken was so good. Love a bit of chicken breast, especially when you season it right. So very happy right now, very full and very ready to get into these poker hands. The plan for today is to just close out the remaining hands I have to get to that 1,500 hand goal. Since I typically, if I did wake up at like 5 or 6, I probably would be wrapping up my first session at this time anyway. If I just start now, we're going to finish a bit earlier, but not that much earlier. So hopefully we can just play our A grade game for the rest of today. To make sure I'm going to do that, I really am just going to key in and focus on what each individual opponent is doing, and then make sure I have the logical response to their strategies. If I do that well, I'll give myself an A grade. I think that about wraps it up, so there's nothing left to do except for get in the game. Welcome back. It is currently about 6 PM here in Melbourne, and I've just wrapped up my second poker session for today. But for the following results, we are also going to include the session I played last night. So just keep that in mind as I do talk about these results. The amount of play I got all up was 6 hours and 19 minutes, which racked me up a total of 1,531 hands. So yet again, we do beat the 1,500 hand goal, which obviously I'm pretty stoked about. Definitely going to take that. In terms of my results from today's session, I did end up winning 798, which obviously I'm pretty stoked with. In terms of my gameplay grade from the sessions, I'm going to give myself an A. One of the things I really like about how I played these sessions was that it was broken up into 3 parts with very large gaps in between. I've talked about previously on the vlog how I do find it easier to focus over short periods of time, and it's worked out for me before when I've split up my sessions into 3 smaller ones, usually less than 2 hours, and it was no exception for the hands I played in today's vlog. I definitely think because all of my sessions were under 2 hours, I was 100% focused during all of them. I didn't make any silly mistakes. I sort of made good reads on my opponents. Obviously, your reads aren't going to be like incredibly in-depth when you are playing less, but when you can sort of just surmise how people are playing based off of their pre-flop frequencies or some of the hands you see them show at showdown, you sort of don't get too caught in the weeds and too distracted. You sort of just play well against those player types. I think that's exactly what happened today, and I'm absolutely stoked that I was able to do that. So definitely feel like I deserve the A from today. I was pretty satisfied with my play today. The biggest thing that I was happy about is how I was just able to focus in on what my opponents were doing, how they play poker, and I think I made some really good reads as a result of that. And this next hand is the perfect example. Let's get into it. The action falls to me on the button, and I have my favorite hand in all of poker, pocket aces. I go ahead and raise it up to 5. Then the action gets to a, I guess you call them loose aggressive play in the big blind. It's actually a player I played a few hands with at this table previously, so there is a bit of history. I'll get more so into their tendencies later, but If I had to put a label on them, I would say they're loose aggressive, but I think it's a bit more complex than that. Regardless though, they throw in the call and we are heads up to a flop. The flop comes out 9-8-7 rainbow, and things get interesting because the big blind actually decides to lead out. They make it 6. Now, this isn't actually the first time this opponent has decided to lead out when they've called pre-flop. I did notice in another hand I played with them, when we did get to showdown, they did flop top pair, and then they did lead it out on the flop, and then they sort of just played it passive on every street after. And I wonder if they're doing the same thing again. Obviously, they can have a bunch of 9s in their range here, calling out of the big blind. So if they do like leading with hands like top pair, I do think there is some merit to raising our pocket aces for value here. Having said that though, I think there is also a lot of merit to just calling. Our opponent can have a lot of 2 pairs on this board and a lot of straights as well, and I'm not like super keen on inflating the pot now, just because I think if my opponent is leading out with a 9, they're probably going to be able to get away from it on later streets, and I don't want to really be put in that position with pocket aces. So ultimately I do decide to call the lead. So we go heads up to the turn, which is the 2 of hearts, and then my opponent keeps betting at it. They go ahead and make it 9. Now the action's on me, and I think this is actually another pretty interesting decision point, whether I do want to just keep calling down or I do want to raise here. And I think I would rather raise on this street. Like I said, when they did lead with the top pair in the other hand we played, they did play passive from there out. Well, the fact that they've only bet like 9 on this turn after taking the lead on the flop, I think it's sort of a version of them still playing the hand passive. Remember, if they did lead a 9 on the flop for top pair, that's still a top pair on this turn. So they might be betting down a bit because they still want to bet their top pair for value while they can, but they might be a bit concerned I do have an overpair, so they're sort of sizing down things. So ultimately, I do decide to raise here, just because if my opponent does have a 9, I really think they're going to call. They might put me on to overcards that floated the flop and call off with their 9, at least on this street. I want to do it now before a scare card to their top pair comes on the river, which is pretty likely if they do have a 9, to be honest. So I go ahead and raise it to 24. And then my opponent calls. Before we do move on to the river, I will say that I think my raise size on the turn here is probably a bit small. I do think my opponent could potentially have a lot of open-ended straight draws. Like, I'm sort of assuming they have a top pair, but that's not fair. They might have a hand like 8-10 or even 10-9 is actually top pair and a straight draw. So I do think it's very likely that my opponent will call this raise with a worse hand, so I should just bet it up bigger to get more value. I think that's a slight mistake on me. Regardless though, I do raise it smaller and he calls and we are heads up to a river, which is the Jack of Hearts. Obviously pretty gross river card for us. We do lose 20-10 now, as well as Jack 10, maybe like Jack 8 if my opponent played that hand this way, which I do think is somewhat possible. Regardless though, they check it over to me, and I think in this spot I absolutely just have to check back. If my opponent does have a hand like King 9, Queen 9, I think this river is going to be a bit of a scare card for them, and they're probably going to be able to get away from it anyway. So I do check back, I show my aces, and then my opponent shows King Jack. Okay, so my read they had top pair was wrong. I guess they had a gut shot on the flop, and I guess that actually would have been one of the few hands I could have bet this river for value and got called by, but regardless, absolutely stoked that I did get a lot of value against King High when I did, so I'll take this hand down. Always curious to hear your opinions though, so hop in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this hand. On the turn, is my raise for value good? I mean, obviously against this particular opponent, when they call with their cut shot, we are getting a lot of value by raising, but in general, what do you think about raising the turn? Is it too thin? What would you do? On the turn, do you go ahead and just call it, or do you do what I did? Raise for that thin value. Hop in the comments below, let me know what you think. Also, on the river, do you think there is merit to betting the aces or not? That's also another potentially interesting decision point. Let me know what you think. Before we wrap up today's vlog, it is time to go over my results from the first 60,000 hands. I think I've played closer to like 62,000 at this point, but it's time we check the results, see how we're going, see if we've gotten up to that 5 big blind per 100 out goal that I'm always setting for myself and always falling short of. Maybe today will be different. Let's get to the Excel spreadsheet and see. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Excel spreadsheet where I do track all of my results, playing these 1-2 online 6 max cash games. As you can see here, we've got the past few sessions from this past week or so, or at least the time since we last showed you this spreadsheet, and as you can see, we have made a total of 4,345 and a half since we have been playing exclusive 1-2 online, which after about 240 hours of play leaves us on about 18 every single hour that we have played. And in terms of the big blind per 100 rate, we are at 3.55, so obviously still a bit shy of the 5 goal I did have for myself pretty much ever since I've started the vlog. Actually, that's been a number I've trying to get towards. Obviously still not quite there yet, but as you can see, we have had a few pair results over the past few sessions, so definitely a lot of room for me to improve my game to get up to that 5 mark. I definitely think when I did jump onto the 2-5 game, I probably did that a bit early. Clearly, I still have a lot to learn about this 1-2 player pool, and I definitely am looking to push that number higher moving forward in the future. There you go. There's the Excel spreadsheet. Not quite at that 5 big blinds per 100 yet, unfortunately, but we're going to keep pushing through, keep playing the 1-2 games until we get up to that number. That's going to wrap up the vlog for today. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate everyone who has subscribed already. Thank you. For now, I'm out of here. Peace.